Hey, it's Tom Kradza. There's been some population updates released from the government of Canada at the federal level. Ontario's done a bunch of updates that we want to share. And the reason we want to share this is we try to look at the fundamentals when it comes to real estate. And to us, the fundamentals are obviously going to be supply, demand, access to credit. So what are the banks doing? How are they allowing borrowing? And then ultimately interest rates. What's the interest rate level? So today, because the Bank of Canada is always on my mind, because the federal government released some information. Just want to share that with you because that speaks to the demand component of the real estate market here in Canada, and it ultimately trickles down into the GTA and the Golden Horseshoe area. So let me just change the size of my face here. Put this over here. So here we go. Here's the first thing I want to share with you. This is a CBC article that was released just talking about the new federal immigration targets that were recently released, saying that the country of Canada is going to try and bring in 1.2 million immigrants in the next 3 years. The targets are actually listed right here. 401,000 in 2021, 411,000 in 2022, 421,000 in 2023. So when we saw this, we tried to skip around to the Canadian government websites, and this is a Canada.ca website where they have released a full 2020 annual report to Parliament on immigration, and the whole report. So if you Google this up, you'll find it. It's on Canada.ca. This is the whole report that they have released. But if you dig in, I'm going to skip to this part. Of the report. This is a little supplementary release that they just released on October 30th. You can see here that they have outlined those targets really clearly. In 2021, the target is going to be 401,000 immigrants into Canada. This is an absolutely astonishing number. Never before have we seen this number. Nick and I have been tracking this stuff for a long time. We have seen 350, 360 being projected, but we have never seen 401. And so the debate is going to be, in the era of COVID and with a pandemic going on and with travel restrictions going on, can the Canadian government even achieve this? And this will be fascinating to watch. And in 2022, it's 411, and 2023, it's 421. And the reason that this is absolutely fascinating is that this year, we know from talking to our own friends and people here at Rockstar that they also have family and friends who are out of the country right now, but they have been approved and have immigration status approved to come into Canada. But because of some of the travel restrictions in their own country and getting access to some of the offices where they need to print out the official documentation, they have not come to Canada yet. So when we see this 401,000 target, I am not convinced this includes the 2020 immigration that's already been approved that has not arrived here in Canada. And there's one other thing. A few years ago, when the Canadian government forecast it was about 310 or 320,000 immigrants, this would have been about 1 or 2 years ago, maybe 2 years ago right now. We actually had an immigration level in this country for that year that came into the country at over 400,000. It was 410,000. So now if the target is 401, plus there's demand from 2020 that wants to come in here, are we going to overshoot? Does that mean next year we have the potential to get 500,000? Or are the travel restrictions and pandemic going to thwart all that? Who knows? But the interesting thing with this is we can tell from these targets that the Canadian government is aggressive on immigration. They want immigration. And we know that about 46% of all immigration comes to Ontario. And the people that come to Ontario, a high amount of that is going to land right here in the Greater Toronto and Golden Horseshoe area. So the population growth in this area looks like to us, it's really going to continue. And if you flip back to this chart here, this is actually something that was done on March 12th of this year. Just for comparison's sake, I want to show you something. On March 12th, that's not that many months ago, the target for immigration then was 341. That was for, let me just check the year, that was 2020. Okay, so 2021 target was 351. So we've gone in March of saying 351 in 2021 to now saying we want 401. What was the 2022 target? The 2022 target, let me scroll up, was 361. So you can see in a few months how Canada has changed its immigration level plans. We have really increased it. When you go back to see them now, 401, 411, and 421. So that's a big change in about a matter of 6 months. And if we flip forward to what this Ontario This Ontario Finance Department, I'm stumbling here today, Ontario population projections, they just updated this for the summer of 2020, and now it includes some COVID projections in here and what it's doing to the population. But you can see in their own forecast, let me move myself over here. You can see in their own forecasts, take a look at this, the contribution of natural increase in net migration to Ontario's population growth. So in the last, let's call it from the year 2000 here till, currently, except for the last couple of years, it's just absolutely skyrocketed. We've been in this kind of range of 100,000 to 150, but now projected going forward, it looks like we're going to just always be over 150,000 every single year. And if anything, my own kind of spider sense tells me the government always is a little low on these projections. It seems to me that even if people don't land in Canada, they ultimately end up, if they don't land in Ontario, they ultimately end up in Ontario a couple of years later. So I'm not sure this is just even an accurate reflection of what actually happens to the population growth in this area. But you can tell from their own projections here, even with the COVID stuff, they're referencing the COVID-19 pandemic here, that the population growth in Ontario looks like it's projected from the government to be at a very strong level. And so that brings us to kind of like one other thing, which is a lot of people will then say, well, Tom, Nick, Rockstar, that's all interesting, but no one's going to really want to come. No one's going to travel here because of COVID. But we found this kind of study here really interesting. This one here is a study on the interest in immigrating to Canada is increasing as a result of the pandemic. And if you can see here, there's a couple categories. Are you more interested? Has it had no impact on your interest? And are you less interested? So if you look here in April of 2020, actually 38% of the respondents said they were more interested in immigrating to Canada. A couple months later, as the pandemic kind of just continued, that actually increased. So this is really interesting to us because it's telling us that Canada is still a destination. No matter what we believe of Canada, if you were living here a long time, when you are from outside Canada, and if you were looking for a better place to raise your family and to make a life, Canada is still a destination. I think Sasha from Greybook, we had him on one of the podcasts recently, and he said something interesting. He said, basically, Canada is the suburb to the world. It's where everybody wants to go and kind of settle down, have their kids go to school. They feel like it's very safe. That's really what it seems like. So with this population kind of trends and these forecasts that we're now seeing going forward, we still believe in this area with our supply constraints that the demand for real estate is really still going to be very strong over the next few years. Only time will tell. We could be completely wrong, of course, but based on this information, we think the demand is going to be really strong. That's it for now. Until next time, your life, your terms.